Welcome to the System Simplified podcast, where we feature top leaders who share stories on how to successfully systemize a business. Now, let's get started with the show.
Hello, Adi Klebit here, the host of the System Simplified podcast, where I feature top founders, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders about systematizing a business. And today's episode is being brought to you by Business Success Consulting Group, where we create, document, optimize, and implement processes and procedures so businesses can grow and scale. And today's guest is Matt Pohl. Hi, Matt.
Hi, Eddie. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Yeah.
Good. Well, we're going to have a great conversation today about growth, scaling, expansion, which is always my favorite subject to talk about.
Yes.
And, you're going to share your experience because you are definitely an accomplished entrepreneur that scaled and grew your own businesses. And then now you're using it in order to help people, other entrepreneurs grow and scale their business.
Right.
So that's great. And so I'm going to give you a short bio and then you're going to extend on it, okay?
Okay, fair enough.
Matt, you're the former data analytics professional turned small business owner, and you implemented the stages of growth methodology and leading to a 10x increase in the company's value.
Right.
10x. Pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And, then you founded a ReWild group because to share the approach, and you also... and he's an author focusing on organizational growth. So you're an author, you're an accomplished entrepreneur, help people grow and scale. Tell us a little bit about your story first.
Yeah, just, academically, as you mentioned the intro, I'm kind of a data geek. So I've studied statistics and information systems and have really been around data for much of my career. But as an entrepreneur, you realize you have to grow skills outside of what you really are good at, kind of that narrow niche that maybe have propelled you early in your career like it did me. And you really have to kind of grow up and be willing to do anything that the organization needs you to do in order to grow. And so really was in the corporate environment through my early career, kind of in my mid-30s, and then just had this passion to leave a very good paying job in a corporate environment. I had 4 small kids with my wife, and we said, okay, let's leave that comfort zone and let's start our own business. And so we did that for about 15 years.
What kind of business?
Yeah, that business was, we worked with attorneys involved in complex commercial litigation. Here in the United States, we have kind of this unique, well, at that time it was unique. I think it spread more, but we had this concept of a class action lawsuit. And so we worked with attorneys that were involved in these class action lawsuits here in the United States. So we provided administrative kind of data analysis services to those clients. And so that was that business. And kind of what was unique about that business is it kind of had 2 seasons. We had kind of the first 12 years of ownership, and then we had the last 3 years of ownership. And the first 12, really, I was running the business kind of based on what I knew, my experience. And like most entrepreneurs, it was my first business. And so a lot of it, I was just kind of learning on my own, leaning on the skills I had built in corporate America. But those skills don't fill in all the gaps that you need to own a small enterprise. And we had a good every business, but we had kind of gotten stuck. We couldn't get over this certain revenue threshold, kept on bumping up that every few years. And so in year 12, we had a business broker, somebody who helps you sell businesses. That's what we call them in the States, at least. Come to us and say, hey, would you mind me valuing your business to see what it is worth? And we said, sure, why not? And it came in, around just under $1 million, which is quite a bit, but not enough to raise 4 kids and, go retire on. So we were like, okay, what are we going to do? And my wife is my business partner. So we said, let's, we're going to work in this business another 10, 15, 20 years. Let's build it differently so it's worth more, because the $1 million for 12 years really wasn't what we would have expected or hoped for. And so I started to look for options, ideas, on how to grow businesses. And as another CEO gave me a book, and he said, "Hey, this book really is the best roadmap for growth." And so I read the book. It's called Navigating the Growth Curve, and found out that the author of the book literally lived within a few miles of me here in Colorado. And so I hooked up with the author, and he had some kind of like a monthly CEO group that he coached people on. And I went through that for about a year and really was able to take his ideas and apply it to the business. And what we saw was incredible. In those last 3 years, we not only broke through that ceiling that kept on holding us back, we tripled our business in 3 years. We tripled the number of employees. And in year 15, we were approached by one of our major competitors, and the planets aligned, and we sold it for 10 times what we had been valued in year 12. So it was just an incredible ride. Part of it was luck for sure, but part of it was really based on this system, this roadmap that really helped me see what I was doing wrong. And it wasn't just about being smarter. Because it was based in research, I could really see and trust what it was showing me to focus on. And that's really what unleashed this growth spurt for our business. And what was really nice about it is the growth came very naturally at that point. I mean, it wasn't painful to grow, because sometimes growth can be really painful.
For
And
sure.
yeah, you talk about process, that's one of the components we had to work on to scale the
So
business.
let's talk about that. Let's talk. I'm sure our listeners are thrilled to hear now. I mean, you gave your history. It's a great story.
Right.
And let's now talk about the methodology. So what are the steps to growth? What did you apply?
Yeah, so the foundation of this methodology is several decades of research of small and mid-sized enterprises over dozens of industries. It's now up to 1,500 businesses that have been analyzed by this research. And kind of the key discovery out of this was that businesses get stuck or fail to grow because they're not following the rules of growth. And those rules of growth are based on what stage of growth you're in. And so it identified that what defines or what drives the rules is complexity. And the more complex a business gets, the more building blocks and process, things like that have to be in place, these structures that need to be in place. And businesses that fail to put these structures in, they get stuck because they don't have the engine really to grow on. They don't have the platform to grow on. And so understanding what stage of growth you're in.
So let's talk about that. What are the different stages of growth that the business can be in?
Yeah, and what's really unique about the research, what the research found is because complexity drives the stages, the question is, well, what shows complexity? What drives complexity? And the reality is that the human beings, the number of people within an organization, really are the key indicator of complexity. The more people you add to a system, the more complex it gets. And so it's not the revenue, it's not how old the business is, it's not kind of how you feel the business is, from a stage, what's the sense of the business? It's literally the number of employees.
So what's the make break between the stages? Like, how do you
Yeah.
separate them?
Yeah, so example, stage 1 is 1 to 10 employees. Stage 2 is 11 to 19 specifically. Stage 3 starts at 20 and goes to 34. And stage 4 starts at 35 and goes to 54, 57. I don't always remember the exact numbers, but the point is, and it's really crazy, when I looked at my business, what we were doing is we were going from stage 1 to stage 2. And then we'd pull back to stage one. We'd go to stage two and come back to stage one.
So let's talk about stage two. So stage two, 10 to 19 employees or 11 to 19 employees.
Right.
What are the actions that you have to take in order to actually get to stage three?
So stage one, stage two to stage three is really one of the most challenging stages. We go from stage one, we call startup, 1 to 10. Stage two is ramp up, 11 to 19. Stage three is called the delegation stage. And what stage three is a very magical stage because the organization is moving from an owner-centric organization to an enterprise-centric organization. The number of people and the complexity within that organization have reached such a level that the owner cannot keep their hands in, and control everything. They have to delegate. That's why it's called the delegation stage. And for many entrepreneurs, founders especially, it's a very hard stage to move out of that owner-centric to an enterprise-centric organization where you must delegate, where procedures are starting to become more important. People are very important in stage three. Stage four is where process becomes even more critical. But that's kind of the nature of stage two. Going into stage three is this big transition in the organization. And we have, the research identifies like different areas, kind of best practice areas that you need to stay aligned with. And one of them is
Let's
called,
talk about that. What are those best practices?
yeah, so one of we have these 8 areas we call dimensions. And one of those dimensions, for example, is called gates of focus. And gates of focus says there are 3 things that you can focus on to cause growth, to really fuel growth in your organization. And they are your people, focusing on profit, and focusing on process. All 3 of those are always important, but growth comes more naturally when you prioritize them correctly based on your stage of growth. So in stage 2, for example, it's profit, process, people. That's the order. You have to be focused on profit because you can't get out of stage 2 unless you have a business model that generates profitable revenue. Process is second because you're getting bigger. Process is lower in stage 1, but in stage 2, it becomes number 2. People, that doesn't mean people are third, but that doesn't mean they're unimportant, but your growth isn't going to come through your people. You have to focus on profit in stage 2 to get to stage 3. Stage 3 is a big change where people become the gate of focus. So it's people, profit, process.
Is it people in terms of hiring or people in terms of investing in your people? Like
it really is investing in your people. Your growth is going to come by investing in your people, by putting energy in that. And really that's about growing and maturing your management, your start of a management team. You have to get that layer in place. If you don't get that in place, your growth will stop in stage 3. And oftentimes you'll pull back to stage 2. In stage 4, process becomes the top gate of focus. That's really where profit and growth is going to come. Again, it's not to say process isn't important before then, but that rises up to being the top thing in stage 4. What we often see is businesses grow through stage 4, out into stage 5 and stage 6, and they never got dealt with process in stage 4, and the wheels are wobbly and it's chaos and there's a lot of trauma because they haven't gotten process in place. So that's the kind of guidance that this roadmap gives you. And one of the key things is knowing that it's changed. I was trying to run a stage 2 business like a stage 1 business, and it failed. With the roadmap, I could know what stage 2 changes in stage 2 and adapt to that. And I could even predict what was coming in stage 3. So when we got to stage 3, it wasn't like I was back to square one trying to figure out by trial and error. I knew exactly, I could turn the lights on in the new room and not stumble through it. I could gracefully navigate stage 3.
That's awesome. So what are some of the things that you learned in stage 3 in order to prepare you for stage 4?
Well, one of the key things in stage 3 is delegation, as the stage name is implied, but there's also these building blocks, what we call elements that need to be infused into the organization. These are foundational elements, and if you don't have them, it's kind of like having a weak foundation for a building, for your home, right? Things will sag, walls will fall down, all those bad things start to happen. And so we've identified these 11 elements that need to be infused into the organization, but they don't need to be there in stage one. So it helps you prioritize when you get these elements into place. And
so tell me, like in stage 3, what are the elements?
Some of the key elements, one of the key elements across really every stage is a business model. So making sure you have a powerful architecture for your business. We say a business model is intentionally designed, architected model for your business that creates a highly profitable and a resilient organization. So you need a business model. But there are some other things that are maybe less obvious, like you need to have clear brand and core values. So you have to have your values very well defined by stage 3, for example. They're secondary importance in stage 1 and 2, but by stage 3, when you really have this real increase in number of people, you have to have these common values to create unity across this diverse employee base. Another one that's important is organizational structure. So you might think of this somewhat as a process, but this is identifying all the positions and their responsibilities within an organization. And so people need to know what work is. We say you have to organize the work first before you assign that work to somebody. In small organizations, oftentimes you say, "Oh, Billy, here's some work. Here's kind of a bucket of work," and it's just a bucket, right? And you just keep on throwing things in based on when Billy walked in your door. "Oh, Billy, can you do this?" But that creates a very fragile organization structure, because when Billy leaves, you've got this bucket of work that no new person, you can't really hire another Billy. So what you need to do is organize the work first, then you organize the people doing the work. But that's an important one, even prior to stage 3. So those are some of the elements.
Absolutely. So Matt, tell me about delegation. I'm very curious. What have you found successful when having to delegate or delegate? Like what is successful delegation in your opinion?
Yeah, that's a good question, because management is such a broad term. Leadership is such a broad term. One of the elements of a business that needs to be infused is a strong management team, right? So we find that over 90% of businesses stage 3 and above lack a strong management team. But delegation in and of itself is, well, we have a tool that helps you delegate, and I think maybe that would be helpful here. We talk about the urgent, important quadrants, and it's just a little tool that helps you understand what's important and what's urgent, and to be able to differentiate in between those. And the idea is that something that's important for you to do and is urgent to be done, you need to do that today. You need to do that right away.
I actually recorded a great episode with Kirsten Melangello, and I'm going to include it in the show notes because we talked all about the Eisenhower metrics, about the urgent and important. Right. And it was an awesome episode. So I'm going to include it here. Absolutely. Yeah.
Great. So that kind of a tool is one way just to understand what you should be doing, what you should be delegating. That's part of it, but you have to have people that have been grown and have the skills and the mindset to take on delegation as well. So it's one thing to delegate, but then the individuals you're delegating to have to know what to do with that as well. And that's where organizational structure comes in place. That's where brand and core values come into place. They know how to make decisions because they know the values that is imbued into the organization, what's in the DNA of that organization. But we actually have a program that helps develop these strong managers through a 12-month program where the CEO and the managers all go through this program together. So they learn these skills, these management skills, but they also share a common language now, that it's not just one person that kind of has learned some management techniques, it's the whole team. So they come to helping these ideas and implementing them in a common way. So I'm not sure if I answered your question, but
no, it's great. You are definitely answering my questions, not a problem. And but now you are helping people implement that methodology.
Right.
So if people want to find out more about you, they'll go like, okay, I want to talk to Matt and see how he did it and how he can help me. How can they reach out to you?
Yeah, so our website, rewildgroup.com, so rewildgroup.com, and we've got two series of books on Amazon, 18 books, two series that are available, one that goes through the 7 stages of growth, and that's a great place to start. They're inexpensive and they're a short read, but you can see if it makes sense, if you think it resonates with you. It's very quickly to get through the material to say, hey, this might work. And then we've got, and those are available on Amazon, and books.rewildgroup.com will take you to that, my author page. So that's a way. And then kind of our business models, we've certified advisors around the globe who are trained in the methodology. So there's somebody in your region of the globe that has been trained and certified in this methodology, and you can contact them directly, or you're more than welcome to reach out to me through our website.
Excellent. Well, Matt, that has been a great conversation, and I really appreciate you being a guest on this podcast. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge.
Well, and I appreciate your focus on process. That's one of my passions, and it's such an important part of scaling up a business, and some people are not very good at it. And for you guys to be in that space, really helping organizations in that is great that you're doing that. So.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you saying that. It's a lot of fun. So absolutely. Well, thank you again.
Okay. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for listening to the System Simplified podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.